Shalom, family. This is Yara Bat Yah, and I'm back with another Torah portion. And for today, we are at Genesis chapter 23. And a little different today, I'm going to actually read through the portion for today and pull out some things as we're going through. But the title of this is Faith, Favor, and Family. And as we're reading through this, I want us to pay attention to where we see faith or trust in action throughout here. I want to look at how favor plays out as we read throughout this portion. And then I want to take a look at and notice the different things that we see about how family operated in the ancient times. All right. So I'm going to start reading at Bereshit, Genesis chapter 23, verse 1. It said, "And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose up from beside his dead, and spoke to the sons of Het, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I might bury my dead from my presence. And the sons of Het answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master. You are a prince of Elohim among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. None of us withholds from you his burial site from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Het, and he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead from my presence, hear me, and approach Ephraim, son of Zohar, for me, and let me have the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver, as property for a burial site among you. And Ephraim dwelt among the sons of Het. And Ephraim the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Het, all who entered the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If only you would hear me, I shall give the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me, and let me bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Het, 400 shekels of silver, currencies of the merchants. Thus the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Het, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Het as property for a burial site. So I'm going to stop right there for a moment and just want to kind of review what we just saw and pull out where we saw faith in action, favor, and family. So we've been following Abraham these last two portions and watching the relationship that the Most High and Abraham have, and the covenant, and how Abraham proved himself to be trustworthy, and that his faith and his trust was in the Most High, and it was deemed to him as righteousness. And the Most High has been confirming his covenant to Abraham. Back in 22:17, he says to him, I shall certainly bless you, and I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is on the seashore. And let your seed possess the gates of their enemies. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham and the Most High are Abraham's being established in this covenant with the Most High. And so, but at this point, he has not yet possessed the land. He is not yet, he's a sojourner in the land of Canaan amongst the people of Canaan. Okay, so, but we see here as he's going in verse 6, as he's asking for this burial site to bury his wife, the people's response to him is, "Hear us, my master, you are a prince of Elohim among us." So we see that he has favor among man. He has favor amongst the people here, to the point where all throughout this portion they're trying to just give him the land because of their regard for who he is and the mighty one that he serves. Okay, so and then we see favor in action here, with Abraham has favor with man. All right, so but we see that ultimately he chooses to purchase this land because Abraham's not just looking for a place to bury Sarah, he's looking for a place to bury his dead, meaning he's looking forward to him, as he's getting old in age. He knows that soon he's going to need a place to be buried, and as well as his offspring, are going to need a place to be buried. And we see faith and trust come into action here because he's choosing to do this in Canaan. He could have chose a burial place back in the lands where he came from, back in Ur, or even when he left, when he had just left, excuse me, from Haran. And but he didn't choose to do that. He chose to bury his people in the land where the Most High said he would take possession of. And he did this with a humble attitude. You see him here bow himself to the ground and asking for this land. You know, in today's world, the way that Hebrews tend to think sometimes, that how, how uh, we've, are rising ourselves up as being the people of the Most High. Our attitude would have been, well, well, this is my land anyway. This land belonged to my people. We're gonna own this land. So you need to give me this. We would have had a haughty attitude about asking for it. But Abraham, humbled himself in his approach to the people in the land to possess this site as a burial place for his ancestors. So Abraham, we see family coming into play because Abraham is the patriarch of the family, and he is thinking about, in this portion here, the future, and setting things in order. And we're going to see in this next portion, this next chapter, that he's also looking forward to setting things in order, in keeping with the covenant and in trusting in the promise of the Most High of his people taking possession of the land of Canaan. All right, I'm going to pick back up at chapter 24. It says, "And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Yahuwah had blessed Abraham in every way. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, Please put your hand under my thigh, so that I may make you swear by Yahuwah, the Elohim of the heavens and the Elohim of the earth, that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But go to my land and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son Isaac, Yitzhak. And the servant said to him, What if the woman refuses to follow me to this land? Do I then take your son back to the land from which you came? And Abraham said to him, Beware lest you take my son back there. Yahuwah Elohim of the heavens, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my relatives, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, To your seed I give this land. He sends his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman refuses to follow you, then you shall be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there. Then the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels and left, for all his master's good gifts were in his hand. And he arose and went to Aram Naharayim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a fountain of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, Yahuwah Elohim of my master Abraham, please cause her to meet before me this day, and show loving commitment to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your jar to let me drink, and she says, drink, and let me water your camels too, let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac, and let me know by this that you have shown loving commitment to my master. And it came to be, before he had ended speaking, that see, Ribkah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nachor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jar on her shoulder. And the young woman was very good looking, a maiden, no man having known her. And she went down to the fountain, filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, please let me drink a little water from your jar. And she said, drink, my master. And she hurried and let her jar down to her hand, and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, let me draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking. And she hurried and emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the fountain to draw water, and drew for all his camels. In watching her, the man remained silent in order to know whether Yahuwah had prospered his way or not. And it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring, weighing half a shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists, weighing 10 shekels of gold. And she said, whose daughter are you? Please inform me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nachor. And she said to him, we have both straw and fodder enough, and room to spend the night. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahuwah. And he said, blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving commitment and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, Yahuwah led me to the house of my master's brother. Then the young woman ran and informed those of her mother's house these matters. And Ribkah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man to the fountain. And it came to be, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and when he heard the words of his sister Ribkah, saying, thus the man spoke to me, that he went to the man and saw him standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, come in, O blessed of Yahuwah. Why do you stand outside? I myself have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came into the house while he unloaded the camels, and provided straw and fodder for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him, and set food before him to eat. But he said, let me not eat until I have spoken my word. And he said, speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and Yahuwah has blessed my master exceedingly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds, and silver and gold, and male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah my master's wife bore a son to my master, when she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, what if the woman does not follow me? But he said to me, Yahuwah, before whom I walk, sends his messenger with you, and shall prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son from my relatives and from my father's house. Then when you go to my relatives, you are to be released from this oath, and if they do not give her to you, then you are released from my oath. And this day I came to the fountain and said, Yahuwah, Elohim of my master, Abraham, please, if you are prospering the way in which I am going, see, I am standing by the fountain of water. And then the young woman comes out to draw water. And I say to her, please, give me a little water from your jar to drink. And she says to me, drink, and let me draw from for your camels too. Let her be the woman whom Yahuwah has appointed for my master's son. I had not yet ended speaking in my heart. Then see, Ribkah was coming out with her jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the fountain and drew water. And I said to her, please let me drink. And she hurried and let her jar down from her shoulder, and said, drink, and let me water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels too. And I asked her, and she said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nachor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. Then I put the nose ring on her nose, and the bracelets on her wrist. And I bowed my head and worshipped Yahuwah, and blessed Yahuwah Elohim of my master Abraham, who had led me in the true way to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you are going to show loving commitment and truth to my master, let me know, and if not, let me know, so that I turn to the right or to the left. And Laban answered Bethuel too, and said, The matter comes from Yahuwah. We are not able to speak to you either evil or good. See, Rivkah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Yahuwah has spoken. And it came to be, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself towards the earth before Yahuwah. And the servant brought out ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold and garments, and gave them to Rivkah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they arose in the morning, he said, Let me go to my master. But her brother and her mother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10, then you go. And he said to them, Do not delay me, since Yahuwah has prospered my way. Let me go, so that I go to my master. And they said, Let us call the young woman and ask her. So they asked Rivkah and said to her, Are you going with this man? And she said, I shall go. So they let go Rivkah their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rivkah and said to her, Let our sister become the mother of thousands, of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gates of those who hate them. And Rivkah and her young women arose, and they rode on the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rivkah and left. And Yitzhak came from the way of Beer Lahai Ra'o, for he dwelt in the south. And Yitzhak went out to meditate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked and saw the camels coming. And Rivkah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Yitzhak, she dismounted herself from her camel. And she had said to the servant, Who is this man walking in the field to meet us? And the servant said, It is my master. So she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Yitzhak all the matters he had done. And Yitzhak brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rivkah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. Thus Yitzhak was comforted after his mother's death. All right. So in this portion that we just read in chapter 24, we see it started off with Abraham knowing that he was advanced in years, and he's still looking over his house. He's taking care of his family and putting things in order, and recognizing that he wants to make sure that his son Isaac takes a wife from among his people. So Abraham's not looking at his current environment. He's looking to the promise. So Abraham, all throughout this, constantly looks towards the promise. When he was looking to bury Sarah, he did that according to what the Most High promised him, and according to the covenant. So he made sure that he picked a burial place for him and his family, his house, for to be in the land of Canaan, which was the land that he was promised. So now, as he's looking forward to Isaac, he's making sure that Isaac is not looking in his current environment amongst the Canaanites for a wife, but looking towards his own relatives when he's looking for a wife. Okay, so Abraham is taking care of his family. He's putting things in order according to his trust in the promise. And then we begin to see that Abraham is aware of the favor that he has with the Most High as he's ordering his servant to carry this out. He lets his servant know it because his servant is concerned that they're not going to allow the woman to come back with him. So Abraham says to him, to your seed, he says to him in verse 7, that the Most High is going to send his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. So Abraham has full faith that the Most High is going to go before him and establish his way. So, and we see as we go through it, as we read through this, that that's exactly what happened. And the servant is aware of the favor that is on his master Abraham, and that the favor of Elohim is on him. And you see him worshiping the Most High as he's going through this process and witnessing how this favor is playing out, so that even his hands and his assignment is prospering because of Abraham. So because of the favor that's on Abraham, this servant over Abraham's house, his way is prospering, and he's witnessing it and experiencing that his prayer, before he even finished praying it, came to be because of the favor that is on Abraham and his house. So he's experiencing this as he's going through, and we see him recount this experience, and you see him bowing to the ground and giving reverence to the Most High because of this. And So sometimes we experience favor, not even because of ourselves, but because of the favor that's on somebody else. Or the favor that's on us will cause somebody else to prosper because they're carrying out something for us. Because ultimately, it's because that we are in line with the will and the desire of the Most High, which Abraham was. He's carrying out the will and the intentions of the Most High, because the Most High is behind the lineage, and this seed, and how this covenant is going to come forth. So as Abraham lines up, he receives favor, and those who line up with that plan also receive favor. And we see how this all plays out. And this is all goes back again because of that faith, that trust in the Most High, that emuna, that trust in the Most High, and being trustworthy with that. We talked about that in an earlier portion. Okay, and because of that, he receives favor, which is hesed or hen, which is favor, kindness. So, and then we see the third thing. We see that family is coming into play, and how this is playing out. So we see Abraham's role, and then as we get into meeting Rebecca and her family, we see how Laban is taking a leading role, with Rivka's father having passed. We see Laban taking the role of covering and speaking for her, and then we see how the family provides hospitality for those who are coming, from traveling and coming in. We see the amount of hospitality that was provided, and how important that was in our culture, to be hospitable to those who are traveling along the way. So that's a really important thing that we have to make sure that we understand. And then we see the process of Rivka being taken for a wife, that Abraham sent the servant with nose rings and bracelets and gold and garments and all these things to bestow upon her, as he's taking claim of her for a wife for Isaac, and then also leaving gifts for the family as well. And so we get to see some insight into how this whole process worked in this time period, and so we can pull on this culture here as we embrace our culture, and because things that we do today are so out of order. We do things completely out of order. There's no culture. There's no way of doing things, and we see the result of that in the mess that we have in our relationships, in our family, in our community, because there's no structure, there's no order, there's nobody putting affairs in order in a way that is functional. So, as a result, we see a lot of dysfunction in our community. But this portion gives us an example of, what a more appropriate way is of operating according to family, and according to being covered, and how they brought the gifts and left the family with those gifts. So hopefully you can take that away from this, and see the faith playing out, the favor playing out, the family, the mishpachah, how family was operating. So the portion goes down to 25 verse 18, but I'm going to stop my reading here. You can finish reading the rest of that. Hopefully you've already read through that portion. But we see, I will read in 25 verse 8, we see that Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, and satisfied, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Yitzhak and Ishmael buried him where? In the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Het. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. And it came to be, after the death of Abraham, that Elohim blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt at Beer Lahai Roy. And so Abraham purchased the cave of Machpelah for him and his ancestors, and he was buried there at a good old age, and was gathered to his people. And we'll see, throughout, as we go throughout the portions, that that's also where Isaac will be buried, and Jacob, and their wives, as we go forward. So Abraham was thinking ahead and putting things in order according to the promise. So pray that you were blessed by this portion. I pray that you read over and just continue to examine these themes as we go throughout the scriptures and how we can apply that to us for today, as we're looking to reestablish ourselves as a functional family, a functional community, and as a people that wants the favor of the Most High to rest upon us. We have to have our trust and our faith in Him and to be trustworthy, so that we can have that favor in our lives. And I will see you in the next video. Shalom, Mishpachah.